Okay, so I had noticed that it looked like this neck was stained and it was coming off, so I scraped that down with a razor blade. And what I think I'll do is tape it off, and then when I go to do the clear, just put a light coating of clear on this because I like the way that looks. I'll leave the head black and the neck black, and then the body will be white with maybe some gold accents. I just rough this up, and I'm going to now rub it with rubbing alcohol, wipe it down, get anything off, and then just give it a light dusting with the primer to start. Okay, so I already gave this one dusting with the primer, and this is what it should look like after the first coat, just very, very light. And the reason for that is because when you're introducing a new paint onto like an unknown surface, like you don't know what's actually there, like I have paint pens, I have the original clear on there, and just different spray paints. So if you just go really thick with it at first, it can react weird and just like bubble and fisheye and all that. So that's what it should look like, just a very light coat. So then now I'll just give it another light coat, but a little heavier than the last time. Okay, so while the last coat of primer is drying, I figured I'd answer a few frequently asked questions. And I'm going to try to do that throughout this entire video, through each process. But the paint that I will be using and that I like is the Duplicolor Perfect Match. And I like this for a few reasons. Number one, it's lacquer. It's readily available, at least where I live, and it's not that expensive. These are about $7. It's a smaller can, but they're about $7 at Napa Auto Parts, where I live. I know AutoZone, I think, was about $10. So, yeah, they're readily available. They're lacquer, and they're durable. I found out about these I have an automotive repair shop, and every once in a while we'll change like a mirror, that's plastic mirror that breaks. Anyway, I use this to paint it because you can get it to match the color of the car, and it looks good. Now, I've used this on that purple guitar back there. It looks good and all, but it came out of the can in splatters. I don't know if this was a bad can. I haven't tried it again since then. But this brand has a lot of nice colors, and it's lacquer, but it didn't come out that well. So I try to stick with this. Now, just as I was doing the last primer, as I let off of the nozzle, there was a little bit of splattering. So I just made sure to let off, you know, after I passed the guitar, which you should do anyway. Before I paint the guitar, I clean it with just regular rubbing alcohol and an old t-shirt. I find that works best. And if you have good condition of the guitar, just rub it with some fine Scotch-Brite. Just the original paint or whatever the surface, just rub it with this, and that you'll be fine. If you have other dents or dings, you know, you might have to fill them, but if it's in good condition, just that's all you need to do, and it's going to work well. You'll see. Alright, so I'm painting this inside an old shed. It's a very windy day here, but this is just enough to give me a break from the wind. So we're just going to start again with light coats, which can be wet sanded later. So if you start getting a run or something like that, just again, don't freak out. If a bug flies into it, you can pull it out with some tweezers or whatever, but don't freak out. Just be patient, put it aside, let it hang up, let it dry, and when it's fully dry, you can sand it and just start over. Okay, so I'm in between coats now on the color, and I wanted to go through a few things to help you get through a paint job, or the way, at least the way I do it and the way I've had some success. So what I do is to do a paint job like this on an acoustic or electric, I do it all in one day, starting from primer, going to color, and then clear, waiting about 10 to 15 minutes in between each coat. Another thing, I keep the paint and the guitar together. So in other words, if it's kind of a chilly day, I don't leave the guitar outside and the paint inside, or vice versa. What I'll usually do is paint it outside or in the garage or in the shed, and then immediately bring it inside to let it, hang here and dry for a bit. And I bring the paint inside too, so it's not sitting out in the sun, sitting out in the cold, so that they're the same temperature. And it seems to work well that way. Unless if I have to sand out some imperfections, then I won't do it in the same day. But in most cases, I've done it just all in the same day. So I will go, and then I bring it, like I said, I bring it in here, let it dry. And now I'm going to go I'll do this off camera because you don't need to see the same color coat over and over again. But I'll do this as many coats as I can. On this one, since it's an acoustic and a little bit bigger, I'm going to use 2 of these cans. So I'll go out, give this, just keep giving this more and more coats. I'll probably come back and show the clear, even though that's the same kind of thing, but just to show it going on. And then after all the clear coats are done, I'll hang this up and let it sit. And then after several days, I'll come back and wet sand it. Okay, so this is the clear. Okay, so again, I'm going to hang this up, let it dry for 10 to 15 minutes, and then come back out here. I'll do several coats off camera, and then when we're ready to do the wet sanding, I'll show and talk about that. So this is the completely cured guitar. I know I looked up on Duplicolor's website. I think they said to let it dry for 24 hours before wet sanding. But you can do whatever you like if you want to let it sit longer. So at this point, when I was younger, if I had painted something, I would have thought, well, I failed. This is a failure. But I didn't realize that to get the high gloss and to smooth finish, you need to wet sand it. So I'll do the wet sanding on a time lapse, and all that I use is a little cup of water with just a drop of soap. I'll change the water in between changing grits. So I'll start with 800, go to 1500, and then 2500. And if I need to, I'll go to maybe 3000 and then polish it. So what I've been doing, not my first paint job, but since then, I've been alternating the direction of the sanding. So I'll start in this direction, then I'll change the water in the cup, then I'll change the grit and also go in this direction, and then finally go back in this direction with each grit. So you'll see that in the time lapse. Came out pretty good. That's after wet sanding. Feels smooth as glass. But it's not yet, so I have to still polish it. I'm going to do just a little bit of polishing right now in real time with this. This is what I use. It's just automotive polish, hand polish. Got it at AutoZone. And before I do that, I think I forgot to mention, when you're wet sanding, try to stay away from the edges, because the paint is thinner there, and you can go right through it rather quickly. So the truth is, when I polish a guitar, I usually take it upstairs and just sit with it on my lap and watch TV or whatever, because it's a lot of work to hand polish. But I don't have any polishing tools, and probably if I did have them, I would probably burn through the paint anyway. So this is how I do it. So I'll just do a little bit right now, and then I'll finish it up upstairs, and then I'll show it to you when I get the whole guitar done. So this is just the same as underneath here. I have underneath the guitar old t-shirts. This is just an old t-shirt. And I kind of like I'll do swirls like this, and then I'll do this, like back and forth a little bit, and for some reason whenever I am applying quite a bit of pressure, and I just kind of like have my two fingers in there, and it seems to polish best like when I hear that squeaking. I don't know if it's just my imagination, or if it's just the right amount of pressure. So it will need still need more work, but that's after. Let's see if we can see. That's just after one quick pass. It still looks as if the surface is not perfectly flat, so you might want to wet sand it more. I'm probably not going to on this one, but I'll see. I'll polish the whole thing, because I do that sometimes. I'll polish it and see how it looks, and then if I'm not happy with it, I might go back and wet sand it again. I mean, it is really smooth right now, though. So, and polishing might take that out actually, because it'll shine up the little bit there. Oh, and before I go finish with the polishing, I figured I should show the difference between what I've done so far on the back to the front. It's a big difference. So that's really rough. It almost looks like it's like I just took house paint or something to it, but it's it's not, and it can turn out, even though this isn't finished, like what a difference. So it's crazy, but this will look the same as the back is looking. Okay, so here's the paint job in natural light. So I left the back of the neck black just for a contrast, and with the neck I just scraped with the razor blade, and I just put some oil on that. I thought that looked good. There's the pick guard. It's a cheapo, but it looks cool. And I kept the inside that color just to show that it's the same guitar or whatever. Yeah, so as you can probably hear, the sound really didn't change at all. It sounds better to me, but that's probably due to the new strings. The biggest difference between painting an electric guitar and an acoustic is the fact that you have to tape everything up. And that's kind of difficult to do properly. So I'm not going to get into that, but you should probably, if you do plan on painting an acoustic, is just watch a few videos on masking and removing the masking tape too, to make sure you don't damage the new paint job. Other than that, if you've learned something from this or been inspired or realized that you could do it since I was able to do the paint job, please consider subscribing. I have a lot of guitar related builds, so there's a few. I have a vacuum cleaner guitar here on the floor, there's a Ninja Turtles, there's an axe, hubcap, I have a few back here. This is from an old steamer trunk. So these are all made, I do everything with recycled materials for the most part, or low cost. I usually don't buy anything. I could buy a few things, but I usually don't. I usually just use what I can find for free. So if you're into guitars and painting, there's a few painting videos also on my channel that came out really well using Duplicolor, and one of them was with Rust-Oleum lacquer. Check them out, and please consider subscribing. It really is encouraging when I get a new subscriber, and just all the good comments that I've been getting for the painting videos. So thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully again that you've been inspired by this paint and this transformation. So thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.